Nietzsche once proposed the most terrifying thought experiment imaginable. He called it eternal recurrence. What if you had to live your exact life again? Not a better version, not with different choices, this exact life, forever. Every moment you've experienced would repeat infinitely. Every mistake, every triumph, every boring Tuesday afternoon, every heartbreak and every laugh, the same conversations, the same choices, exactly as they happened. Most people hear this and feel immediate dread, a tightening in their chest, because suddenly they realize something uncomfortable. They're not actually living the life they want. They're living the life that just happened to them. Nietzsche wasn't interested in whether eternal recurrence was literally true. He was interested in what it reveals. It's a psychological test, a mirror held up to your choices. How you respond tells you everything about how you're living. Think about your daily routine right now, the job you drive to, the relationships you maintain, the hours you spend scrolling. Would you choose this eternally, or are you just waiting for some day? Most people are postponing their real life. They tell themselves they'll start living differently when circumstances change, when they have more money, when they find the right person, when the timing is perfect. But eternal recurrence destroys that illusion. There is no someday. There is only this day, repeated forever. The question becomes unbearable. Are you living in a way you could affirm eternally? Nietzsche called this test amor fati, love of fate, not passive acceptance, but active embrace. Could you say yes to your life as it is? Every detail, every pain, every mundane moment. For most people, the answer is no. And that no is important. It's not a failure, it's information. It tells you where your life has drifted from your values, where you've been living someone else's script. Maybe you stayed in a relationship because leaving felt too hard. Maybe you took a job for security, not meaning. Maybe you've spent years performing a version of yourself that isn't quite real. Eternal recurrence exposes the gap, the distance between who you are and who you could be, between the life you're living and the life you actually want. That gap is where your suffering lives. Most psychological pain isn't about what happens to you. It's about the life you're not living, the person you're not becoming, the choices you're not making, the voice you're not using. Nietzsche understood something modern psychology confirms. Regret isn't usually about what you did. It's about what you didn't do, the risks you didn't take, the words you didn't say. So imagine it again. This life eternally recurring. The same patterns, the same compromises, the same small daily betrayals of who you want to be. Could you bear it? The beauty of this thought experiment is its precision. It doesn't ask if you're happy. Happiness is vague. It asks something more specific. Would you choose this again? Exactly this, infinitely. And if the answer is no, you have information. You know something is wrong. Not wrong like broken, wrong like misaligned. Your life doesn't match your values. Your days don't reflect your priorities. This is where most people get stuck. They know they're not living right, but they don't change. Because change is terrifying. It means admitting you've been wrong. It means disappointing people. It means uncertainty. So people rationalize. They tell themselves their life is fine. They compare themselves to people who have it worse. They focus on what they should want instead of what they actually want. But Nietzsche's test cuts through rationalization. It doesn't care about shoulds. It only cares about truth. Would you live this life again, forever, exactly as it is? The people who can say yes to that question share something. They're not necessarily happy all the time. They're not free from pain, but they're aligned. Their choices match their values. They've looked at their life honestly. They've made hard changes. They've had difficult conversations. They've walked away from things that looked good but felt wrong. They've chosen meaning over comfort. That's what eternal recurrence really tests. Not whether your life is perfect, but whether it's yours. Whether you're living authentically or performing. Whether you're choosing or just reacting. Think about the parts of your life you'd happily repeat forever. Those moments when you feel most yourself. When time disappears, when you're not performing or pretending. What are you doing then? Now think about the parts you desperately want to change. The relationships that drain you. The work that feels meaningless, the habits that shame you, the conversations you avoid. What keeps you there? Usually it's fear dressed up as responsibility, or comfort disguised as contentment, or the sunk cost fallacy making you believe you've invested too much to change now. But eternal recurrence asks, would you rather live wrongly forever than face one difficult year of change? Would you rather repeat this comfortable prison infinitely than risk building something real? The thought experiment becomes a catalyst. Once you truly imagine living this exact life eternally, you can't unknow it. The question stays with you. It whispers during every compromise. It asks, is this moment worthy of eternity? Is this conversation authentic? Is this choice aligned? Is this how you want to spend this day, if you'll spend it infinite times? Some people find this exhausting. Every choice suddenly feels heavy. But that weight is clarifying. It forces you to distinguish between what matters and what you've been tolerating out of habit. Nietzsche believed this was the path to becoming who you are, not discovering some hidden self, but creating yourself through choices you could affirm eternally. Building a life you wouldn't want to escape. This requires brutal honesty. You have to admit what you actually value, not what you think you should value. You have to acknowledge what genuinely matters to you, even if it disappoints others. You have to look at the gap between your stated values and your lived values. What you say matters versus where you actually spend your time. What you claim to want versus what you choose. Most people discover their revealed preferences are different from their stated ones. They say they value creativity but spend no time creating. They say relationships matter but invest in work. Eternal recurrence forces alignment. Because you can't lie to infinity. You can't tell yourself you'll change later when later is just now repeating. There is only what you're actually doing. This is uncomfortable. But discomfort is the signal. It means you're seeing clearly. The more resistance you feel to this thought experiment, the more misaligned your life probably is. But there's also freedom in this. Once you accept the test, you can start making different choices. Not someday. Today, because today is the only day you have, eternally. You can have the conversation you've been avoiding. You can leave the situation that's draining you. You can start the project you've been postponing. You can stop pretending you're fine with things you're not fine with. Nietzsche called this becoming who you are, not finding yourself, not discovering your purpose, but actively creating a life you could love eternally, one choice at a time. It's not about perfection. Perfect lives don't exist. It's about authenticity, about living in a way that feels true, about making choices that align with your actual values, not inherited ones. Some days will still be hard, some choices will still hurt, but there's a difference between pain that comes from living authentically and pain that comes from betraying yourself. One kind of pain has meaning, the other is just suffering. Eternal recurrence helps you tell the difference. It asks, would you choose this pain again, or is it pain you're choosing to avoid bigger pain? Most people choose small, constant pain over one big, painful change. They stay in the wrong relationship because breaking up hurts. They keep the wrong job because job searching is hard. But when you imagine that small pain eternally recurring, it becomes unbearable. Suddenly, the big change looks better. The temporary difficulty of transformation beats the eternal difficulty of staying stuck. This is how eternal recurrence becomes a tool for change. Not through motivation, through mathematical clarity. The equation becomes obvious: temporary pain of growth or infinite pain of stagnation. You start making different choices, not because you're suddenly brave, but because the alternative is clear now. You see what staying costs, you see what you're trading, you see the bill. And slowly, choice by choice, you build a life you could affirm. Not a perfect life, a true one. One where your days reflect your priorities, where your relationships feel genuine, where your work has meaning. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up one day with everything aligned, but you wake up knowing what needs to change. And you start changing it, one uncomfortable choice at a time. You have the conversation that's been weighing on you. You set the boundary you've been avoiding. You quit the thing that's killing you slowly. You start the thing you've been scared to start. And each time you make an aligned choice, the question gets easier to answer. Would you live this moment eternally? Yes. This conversation, this risk, this authentic expression. Yes, I would choose this again.